All right, in case you missed it, that was a look at some of last night's mayoral debate right here on KUSI. Joining me this morning is political strategist Tony Manolatos to break down the debate, and we should say also a former spokesperson for Kevin Faulconer. So people know exactly where your allegiance once held, but now you're independent and can talk about this from a strategy point of view. A little, as we both said, that debate was a little chippier than we expected because the two men generally get along.
They do. They're nice. They're looked at as nice guys, smart guys, both with bright futures. We're certainly not going to run into a Bridgegate with either of these guys.
No, we're not.
You know, but they were a little chippy. The gloves have definitely come off, probably because there's not a lot of time left between now and Election Day. There
are several issues where you can say, okay, they are definitely in different camps here, and one of them is the Barrio Logan issue. Let's pull up some sound, what they had to say about this issue that has become a big political fight. Let's just take a look.
Next time, Kevin, you take a ride down the bank in the yacht with the tickets that you get from the port lobbyist group, take a look east. That's where Barrio Logan is. That's where the shipyards are. That's where children in that neighborhood are suffering from asthma because of the misguided policies of the city. So what did we do? What did the city council do with our mayor and the majority of the council? We passed a compromise that allowed for people to live in a good quality neighborhood and for the jobs to be maintained.
People weren't spreading fears, David. People were fearful for their jobs. And I've talked to many of them, and they've come up to me. Many of the families that literally have worked generations in those ship repair jobs.
Families like my family,
and they
right.
count on it. And they're dead set against your plan. And it was a failure of leadership. And you may not think it was, but it was. And as mayor, I'm going to ensure I'm sticking up for those families. And they've said, Kevin, please make sure that we change this plan. It protects us. They'll have my support. We are going to change that plan once we get it on the ballot, and we're going to come back for the plan that not only works for the neighborhood, David, but protects one of the most important middle-class job-producing industries in this city.
All right, that was a 5-4 vote along party lines to keep that intact along the Mario Logan area there. Just that part of the debate, who comes out on top? Alvarez claiming that, you know, Faulconer's never even been in that area from the comments he made.
Which is completely untrue. One of the really nice things about Kevin, and one of the reasons I think he's going to do so well, is because he has a broad base of support. David's support really only comes from government employee unions, but we can get into that in a minute.
Yep.
In terms of this issue, I think it's clear that the #1 issue with voters right now is jobs and the economy. Who's on the side of jobs and the economy in this debate? Kevin Faulconer. I understand and respect David Alvarez's position, but he's wrong on this issue. We don't have a lot of manufacturing jobs in San Diego. The ones we do have, the shipbuilding industry in particular, we need to protect, we need to foster. Why? Because those jobs work real closely with the Navy. We don't want to disrupt that relationship in San Diego.
Let's talk about the union support. Kevin Faulconer criticizing his opponent for the strong union support, and Alvarez coming back and saying, no, a lot of people that aren't involved in politics at all, hotel workers, janitors, low-wage sector, education, teachers, are on his side. Your thoughts?
I understand David was trying to say that he has support from a lot of the common folk, but if you look at the numbers, if you look at where the money in this race is coming from, over close to 70% of Kevin's contributions come from individuals, people like you and me. More than 80% of David's contributions come from government employee unions. And if you dig a little bit further, you see that there's actually 3 pools of government employee unions donated to David's campaign: San Diego, Sacramento, and D.C. So he's pulling in outside union support more than 2/3 more than the local union support. More than 80% from government employee unions. So I understand Kevin is saying, look, you're the guy who's bought and paid for by special interests, not me.
Another issue that both sides basically agree on, and it's something that is true to the hearts of many voters, is the stadium issue. Let's listen to sound from both of them concerning putting a new stadium in San Diego.
We are going to work with the Chargers, but they have to come up with the financing, and there's several mechanisms that they can use to do that.
We're not going to raise a special tax under my administration to keep the Chargers.
Well, if we put it on the ballot, would there be a tax?
No.
All right. Do you see a difference there? Is there much of a difference when we're talking about the stadium between the two men?
No, I think jobs in the economy, like we were saying earlier, polls really well with voters. I'll tell you one thing that doesn't poll really well with voters is using taxpayer dollars to subsidize a Charger Stadium.
Yeah.
It's just a non-starter with both of these guys, as it should be. So I think what they're saying, they'll work with the Chargers. They'll try to come up with a creative financing plan, but both of them have said that financing plan needs to protect taxpayers.
All right, everybody likes to see a winner and a loser when it comes to debates. Was there a winner and a loser last night, or did they fare equally well? What are your thoughts there?
I think on some issues, Kevin was head and shoulders above David. I think David held his own overall. I think David Alvarez is a very nice young man. He's got a bright future. He may very well be San Diego's first Latino mayor someday, but Kevin, I think, is just head and shoulders above David in terms of experience. He's right on most of the on the big policy issues we discussed. He has a broad base of support. He's supported by Democrats and Independents and Republicans, where most of David's support is union-based Democrats. So I think Kevin's the clear choice here. I think he was in your debate last night, and I think he will ultimately be our next mayor.
And again, you've been a spokesman for David, for Kevin Faulconer, so people understand that. Sure. But let's show the last poll that we've got, though, and that's not really indicating that Kevin Faulconer is going to win this thing handily. There is the latest poll. We've seen so many polls. Alvarez with a 1 percentage point lead. Your take on that?
Well, the Democratic Party issued that poll, correct?
I would have to ask where that poll came from. But is that the one you say? Yes, it is.
That's what they, yeah. And so, I would take that poll with a grain of salt. We don't understand, who they polled, when they polled, what were the questions. I mean, a poll's a poll.
You gotta love polls, right?
Yeah.
All right, 3 weeks to go, though. You see both of these candidates really coming out full force.
Absolutely, and I think last night's debate showed that they're starting to shed the talking points. They were engaged in a lot of giving back and forth. So I hope voters tune in, and I hope ultimately, really, they show up, because special elections don't typically bring out a lot of voters.
Yeah, and you don't predict a Bridgegate in the next 3 weeks.
Absolutely not. Both of these guys are really good men and great leaders and well respected. So I know there's no Bridgegate with either of these guys.
We don't have to worry about that. Tony, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.